Okay, you men.
Be quiet.
They're right there. They know they're here.
It's
Redress. Did you hear something?
At redress right now.
hear you.
Alright,
At redress right now.
Everybody, be
At
quiet.
redress right now.
You're gonna
I know they're around here.
At redress right now.
quiet. They're right
At
Alright,
redress
get
right
me
now.
back up.
Baby, please.
At redress right
I
now.
want to search this area.
Trouble.
Right
At
here.
redress right now. At redress right now.
I know you all hear that.
Redress
Find
right
them.
now.
Find them now.
Baby, up.
The legal. I want this whole area quarantined now.
At redress right now.
Nobody is to leave this area at all.
Would you shut that baby up?
I know you heard that.
Make that child be
Find
quiet.
them. Find them now.
Shut that baby up.
All voices done by the Legal Redress Commission. None of this material is copywritten. Feel free to use it as you please. Pretty good, wasn't it?
First things first, I want to truly thank many of you for your kind words and your kind comments. Many of you have stated that you understood how much time and expense, personal expense, has gone into trying to provide accurate information for you. Now, before I get into all of that, because this video is going to talk somewhat about A for V, somewhat about accessing the court, and somewhat about capturing the system and putting it in a chokehold. Some people have told me that's probably not the best way to go about it. I don't know any other way. You see, as a child, I was pretty stocky, I was pretty big, and so when I played football, I used to have this saying, I don't go around, I go through. And that's the way I live my life. And yes, it's brought me some hardship, but for the most part, let me tell you, well, let me give you a little story. I had a situation with a tool, tools where you hammer, nail, chainsaws, drill saws. Well, this particular facility, they do it on a national basis. As a matter of fact, part of their company name has the word tools in it. That should be enough of a hint for some of you. I purchased a product from them, a compressor, an industrial size compressor. Well, originally the problem was they advertised an item, they didn't have the item in their location. I didn't have time to go shopping around every place else. Plus, it was 90 miles away. So I figured, I've had enough. You people need to provide me something comparable to what you had advertised here. It just turns out that I was trying to get a 125 pound compressor. The next one they had was a 500 pound compressor, which was $400 more. I wasn't about to pay $400 more, so I introduced them to truth in advertisement, because they advertised, said they had it in stock. Turns out, I apologize for that. Turns out they didn't have any in stock. They just had that one item, and it was a floor item. I said, well, I'll take it. Worked out a deal, had to call the corporate office, but they said it's yours. Now, unlike most people, I know that there is no value in anything. When you buy a car, that car has no value. That's why when you drive it off the lot, it loses value. It depreciates. If it was actually something of substance, it would not depreciate. It would actually improve or increase in value. So when I received this $800 item, I went home and I plugged up the generator to this $800 item. The worker told us that it was 110 volt. Told him it didn't matter, because even if it was 240, the generator can accept it. It's a pretty heavy generator. It can handle that. So he says, yeah, all you need to do is get the connection for the cord and you'll be okay. I said, are you sure? He said, yeah. So we left. I got the connection for the cord, plugged it into my generator. Lo and behold, I blew a fuse. So I went back, replaced the fuse, hit the little switch, turned the generator back on. Fuse blew again. Then we started it. We said, okay, we won't use that generator. So my partner brought his generator over and we used his generator. And then we tried to plug in our other tools into the generator, because it's a rural area, there's no electricity in the area, so we needed to run the generator. And it turns out that it blew out the other generator as well. Now, so we didn't know that the generators were blown until we did some troubleshooting. We found that we weren't getting any power from the generator. So we call the technical support company of this particular, or the technical support part of this particular company, and they tell us that the generator is faulty. Or excuse me, that the compressor is faulty, that there's something wrong with the wiring. So we drive the 90 miles to return the compressor to have them repair it. We don't want to return it. I don't want any money back. Repair it is what I said. They refused. Told me they weren't going to repair it. I said, oh really? They said yes, because this item did not damage your generator. It's not possible. I said, really? I said, I've been on the phone with your technical support department, and they're the ones who told me that the compressor was faulty. I said, I got 2 generators that are down right now. And I said, I live off my generator. I don't have enough solar panels to power my home, so I have to use the generator most of the time. They said, well, that's too bad, isn't it, for you? You guess you'll have to buy another generator. That's the wrong thing to tell a person like me. I called their corporate office. They must have hung up on me about 15 times. And I told them I was going to charge them for every time they hung up on me. Well, to make a long story short, small claims court, they settled, let's say a little bit less than $5,000, which was enough to buy me 7 more generators and a compressor. And by the time I got finished, there was no more problems. Now, the reason why I bring up that particular facility, because when I went back into the facility to bring the compressor, or to pick up the compressor, because they were giving us another compressor, we found out that it wasn't supposed to be plugged into the generator. It had to be hardwired, which is something the staff never told us, and there were no instructions because it was a floor model. And the staff told us that we could put a connection on it and plug it into the generator, because we told them we were using a generator. One of the employees saw me walk into the store, and I had someone with me. And as I'm walking past him, he taps the guy on the shoulder and he says, "Are you with that guy?" And he says, "Yeah, what's wrong?" He says, "I can't stand that guy." And he says, "Really, why?" "Because he always gets his way." Now, when I was told this, and it was probably about 2 days later, because they were trying to figure out how to tell me because they thought I would get upset and file another lawsuit. But that wasn't the case. I'm from California, the sue me state. So that's why they thought I would file another lawsuit, and I told them no. I said, but let me ask you a question. He said that I always get my way. Whose other way would I want? Wouldn't I always want my way? Why would I want to get somebody else's way? I don't even want to get in somebody else's way. So I just wanted to let you know, this is who I am. You see, once I start on something, if I say I'm going to do something, it gets done. A man is nothing without his word. Now, I could get into my personal life, but you guys are not here to hear about my personal life. So, as far as the intro and the extra is concerned, I was having a little fun. You see, when you do this much research and constantly are talking about these subjects all the time, you need a little levity. So I decided to sit up, play around with Acid Pro, made by Sony, and decided to play around with the software and do a couple of voices and make another intro. Now I'm going to use that intro from now on. That's going to be the intro to the site from this point forward. Because, sorry, that was a fly, and he's been flying around me, and I had to take care of him. He needed to go. Getting back to the intro extra, I'm going to leave those as the intro because I actually like them. The fact that all of the voices are there, but the last part, the extra of the videos, the fact that it talks about the military occupation, because we're about to have a military occupation in this country. If you don't see it coming, I feel sorry for you. Now, because we know that the military is about to be enforcing a martial law of some kind, we know that we have to be prepared for that. Have you decided what you will do in that situation? You can't fight back, people. You cannot. They will use a Predator drone and blow up your entire neighborhood. Now, I'm not trying to put fear into anybody's hearts, but you have to understand the nature of these people. These are the same people that are in Iraq and Afghanistan blowing up mountains, claiming that there are people inside the mountains when there are no people inside the mountains. What most of you didn't realize is most of the bombing that was going on with the Patriot missiles, they were getting rid of extra ammunition. You see, the military can't ask for more money to produce more ammunition if they have an overstock. So they were getting rid of their redundant artillery. There's another name for it, but they have stockpiles of weapons. Just like Libya, Iraq, Afghanistan, they've always found catches of ammunition, stockpiles. Every government does it. Every government does it. So the United States starts a war to get rid of that old weapons, munitions that they have on stockpile. That's how they keep the military-industrial organization moving forward. That's how they advance in weaponry. Because if they had more than enough weapons, they wouldn't get any money to make any more little new toys. So if you don't think that they're going to use that arsenal on their own people, remember, they do not consider you as people. When you walk into the court, and now we're going to segue, like the little vehicle, into the courts. And we'll stay on the courts for a minute, then we'll get to A for V. So you'll see I will segue to each one. Let's deal with the A for V issue. No, I'm sorry, the court issue. Then we get to the A for V. When you walk into court, remember the government has provided you with what's called a legal entity or a legal person. Do not call it the straw man anymore. Do not call it the straw man anymore. It's not a straw man. It's actually a legal person, a legal entity. It is known in the courts as a legal person, not a legal fiction, but a legal person. See, the courts have gotten keen to people coming in there with the sovereign issues and the sovereign rights this and the sovereign rights that. Again, they will bring up the issue of sovereignty and how they are a sovereign person and a sovereign citizen. Please understand, once you call yourself a citizen, a government-created word that's been handed down from one monarchy or government to another, once you refer to yourself as citizens, then you run into the problem of being considered property of the government. Now, I know some people have read in Scripture where Paul speaks of us as being citizens of a different government. But please, you must understand, that's a translation. That's not the original Greek word. So when you want to use that phrase, you have to use the appropriate phrase. You can't just take one little simple phrase from that book and say it applies universally. Now that's enough about the Bible. And yes, I could talk about it all day, but that's not what this conversation is about. This conversation is about the courts and how to engage the courts, because that's the problem. How do we engage them? I've told many of you that the courts are operating under presumption of law jurisdiction. Now, I dare any one of you to prove me wrong. I dare you to do the research and prove me wrong. For 20 years, I don't want to do that. For 400 years, they told us. I don't want to do anything like that. I just want to say, for 20 years, I've heard every other jurisdiction. The courts are operating under common law jurisdiction. The courts are operating under admiralty jurisdiction. The courts are operating under maritime jurisdiction. The courts are operating under statutory jurisdiction. The courts are operating under administrative law jurisdiction. Every single moment, somebody is telling you a different jurisdiction the courts are operating under. Are they wrong? No, people, they are not wrong. The courts are changing the jurisdiction up on you. Are you paying attention? When you walk into the room, as I've mentioned before, I will say this again. The bailiff or clerk of the court goes, "All rise. The Honorable Kitchen Hetchin Mitchin of the fourth realm of the hierarchy of the Emperor Roman Julius Society has just entered the room. You may be seated." The bailiff or clerk has been told to announce the judge as he enters the room, as if he's king. Now, no one challenges that announcement. No one challenges that announcement. Why? Because that announcement allows the court to presume, under presumption of law, that it has authority. that it has power. People, the courts are powerless. The courts receive their power from the Constitution. Actually, they receive their power from the Statute at Large Judiciary Act of 1789. So just go look it up. Judiciary Act of 1789. That's where the courts get the power to function and operate. Who made those laws? Was it not man? So how can the courts rule over man? But nobody brings this argument in court. Nobody goes to the court. Excuse me. I just have one question for you. What gives this body jurisdiction over this human being? Nobody asked that question. Because the courts, the first thing they're going to do is try to avoid answering that question directly. And then you let them take you off on some other issue. Excuse me, you're the human being. You have more authority than their statutory laws, their codes, but you don't go in there with my attitude. Yes, some of you have listened to my video and I told you about the court hearing that you cannot talk to the court that way. Okay? After that video gets out and people start playing it, and you must understand that these judges and attorneys that are involved in my cases, they're watching my videos. They're listening to my videos. They're looking at the site, seeing what I put up online. Why? Because they think they can palm play me. There will be no palm playing of this man. I will not permit or allow that. Okay? I'm the one who has been palm playing them from the beginning. Why? Because they're arrogant. Because they think that they are smarter than me. They look at the color of my skin and they think that I am ignorant. Every single man on this planet has the ability of being smarter than every single man on this planet. It doesn't matter what race you are. It doesn't matter how tall you are. It doesn't matter how big your eyes are, how big your mouth is, how big your head is, how big your hands are, how big your feet are. Only in these stupid Western countries do we judge people based on what they look like, what's their stature, what's their status. People, get out of that mode. Quit being so brainwashed that you think that one race is better than the other, that one set of genetics is better than the other. That is what they have done. They have divided us. From the very beginning, man has been divisive, separated. Why? Well, go back and look at Adam and Eve. After they ate from the tree, you no longer hear about them being in the same vicinity. Yes, they had many children according to the 5th chapter, verse 1 through 5, but you do not hear about them being together anymore. Why? Because there was a divisive influence that divided them. Man was put here to be united. I told you, you give me any 10 people, any 10, it doesn't matter who they are, as long as they don't argue, as long as they don't have attitudes, as long as they are willing to work together, and under that premise they remain for 2 straight years at least. Sorry, I'm just going to unplug that so it won't happen again. So that they remain together for 2 straight years at least, and I guarantee you, I will create one of the most powerful companies on this planet. Why? Because at that moment, you have 10 supercomputers that are connected to each other. And then you have one mega computer. No force on this earth will be able to prevent that from moving forward. And if I could find another 9 people who were willing to work together, who weren't greedy, who weren't looking to make the next dime off of the next man, I assure you, we could change everything in this country. We could change everything on this planet. But I'm not looking to do that. Why? Because I believe, like many of you believe, that there is a course that has been set, that has been foretold for thousands of years. I have watched it unfold, and so far, every single niche has been filled. Every single cog in the wheel has made a connection. Everything is working out exactly as was foretold. Who am I to try to interfere with prophecy? So as I say in the extra, we all know something is about to happen. You feel it, you know it, you feel it deep inside of you that something is about to happen, but you're not sure what. We all know that this country is about to have an implosion. As a matter of fact, let's coin the phrase, the greatest implosion, one, Let's do that. The greatest implosion, 1. We had a depression. Now we're going to have an implosion. The greatest implosion, 1, ever. The greatest implosion in mankind's history is taking place as I speak. As you sit there and listen, as you walk through your life. What I have told people, please, stock up on canned goods. Stock up on cup of noodle, top ramen. Look, all of those health nuts out there, the people who want to eat healthy, who go and spend billions of dollars, thousands of dollars a year on these dry foods that you just add water, fine, go for it. Everybody thinks they're so safe. We'll get back to the courts in a second. Everybody thinks they're so safe because they live out in the middle of nowhere. They're not attached to the grid. They grow their food naturally. People, the Fukushima plant in Japan, the greatest catastrophe in mankind's history. No, you didn't hear me because you've been paying attention to the national media. Fukushima is the greatest catastrophe in mankind's history. Why? Because it is the greatest nuclear event to ever occur on this planet. The Fukushima plant is still melting down to the core of the Earth. It is still spewing out radiation. That radiation has already traveled around the world at least 6 times. That radiation is in the rain, it's in the rainwater, it's in the soil, it's in the plants. There is no such thing as organic anymore. So keep thinking that you can grow organic. I know. Well, I won't get that much bisphenol A and GMOs and other things. Go ahead, spend your money. Well, I say the earth is resilient. Your body is resilient. As a matter of fact, as far as the body's resilience, I am 100% proof of that. Temperature of 126 degrees, I survived. 3 strokes, 1 major, I survived. 1 major heart attack, 1 mild heart attack, I survived. Kidney, liver, heart, lung damage, I survived. Imagine that. So what I would suggest for all of you, those of you who can't afford to buy the freeze-dried food where you just add water, please, canned goods, top ramen. You see, I know something's about to happen because gas prices in my area was just $3.40 a week and a half ago. I even made reference to it on one of my videos. Well, today I pulled by a gas station and it was $3.02. This is Thursday, September 28th or 29th, I don't know. This is Thursday, the week of September 25th. And gas prices are $3.02? Gas prices are actually going down? For what reason? You know, I've been watching the stock market and I've been seeing that it would lose 500 points in a week and then it would gain 300 points the next week. That's not the way the stock market works, people. Somebody's manipulating it. And when the crash comes, it appears it's going to be a sudden crash. It appears that they're going to hit us hard. It appears that they want riots in the streets. Okay, as I was telling one person, I don't think our problem is going to be with the courts. So in a second I'll finish talking about how you can engage the courts and what I told one young man. As a matter of fact, while this particular video is being made, I'm going to pull up the document I made for the young man this morning because he was actually in a courtroom when he called me. And, well, I didn't know how important it was because I was on another call, so I didn't answer it immediately. I called him back when I had the opportunity, only to find out that he had been in court, been before the judge. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. I just want to help you understand something about this martial law situation that's coming and how I don't think the courts are going to be our problem. This is the reason why I don't believe the courts are going to be our problem. You see, we're not establishing who we are among the country itself. So, although the courts are going to be there, we already see that the courts have lost their power. The military has the power now. Now you're asking me, how can I say that? How can I say that the United States military has all the power? Because they're building up this particular complex, military complex. As a matter of fact, notice the convoys of military personnel on the streets. You see, they're going to leave NATO to handle the crises in other countries. The United States is the only country where they keep crying democracy, democracy. We got freedom. We don't have any freedom. There are more restrictions on you every day than has ever been the case. Sorry, that was another fly and he had to go too. There are more restrictions on you every single day. What you can't do, what you can do. You're being told, you're being directed, you're being guided every step of your life. And for those of you who keep watching that, what was referred to by many older people as the idiot box, I assure you it is the idiot box. That box was designed to program you. I know, you've been convincing yourself that that ain't true. That box ain't gonna program you. That box ain't gonna keep you in check. That box ain't gonna put no hold on you. You can watch TV and you can stop watching TV anytime you want. You know, the only good thing about what I can tell you about what I do is because of what I'm doing right now, I don't get to watch TV anymore. No, I don't think I've watched any TV for about 4 weeks. Now, I will tell you, I download movies, TV shows that I'm interested in. One show that I'm interested in is Fringe. I like Fringe. I like science fiction. I like shows like Fringe. It took me a while to get into Fringe because I wasn't quite sure. But I like Fringe. F-R-I-N-G-E. I like Fringe. So they just started their next season. I missed 2 weeks of it because I didn't even know it started, because I don't watch TV. But that's okay, because the shows that I download, no commercials. So I don't have to worry about nobody trying to program me. I'm not paranoid. I just noticed that ever since I moved here, where I don't have a TV, my computer is my TV. I have an adapter that I can pick up TV channels. But ever since I moved here and stopped really watching TV every day, I'm allowed to think. I'm allowed to see what's going on. I'm not so blinded by the stupidity. So when this military-industrial complex does come in, I think what we should be doing is trying to figure out how to remain outside of its reach, where it is not allowed to touch us. Think about it. In Hitler's day, during World War II, there were several Germans who were not the rich and elite Germans, but there were several of them that the military couldn't harm. But we need to find out how to do that here. We need to find out how to make sure that the military does whatever it's going to do, and they leave the majority alone. That they go after the ignorant, the ones who are zombies, the ones who are followers, the ones who will do everything that they're told to do. We need to focus on the people who are, I don't want to say awake, because half of the people who think they're awake are still sleeping in some other mystical land where they're not here. They're not in reality. Something is wrong with half of the people who claim they are awake. I made a video, and it's still on my YouTube channel, and that video is entitled Reality versus Reality. I really do believe many people have been waking up into another form of the Matrix. They think that they're fully awake, and they're not. You know, I have discussions with people about the Bible often. Now, one thing I won't do with the Bible is I will not argue with people. What I will do is I'll have a discussion. I don't judge them. I don't tell them they're wrong. I don't tell them they're right. But when they bring up a question, I take them right to the scripture. And I say, hey, wait a minute, here's another one to back that up. Wait, here's another one to back that up. And just in case you didn't get that point, here is one more to back that one up. Because I don't need to tell people what that book says. Well, as far as being awake, nobody needs to tell you what the truth is. The truth is obvious. The truth is standing alone by itself. The truth doesn't need any support. You don't have to go and board it up and put woods on it because there's a storm coming. The truth can handle any storm, any controversy, any crisis. So find the truth. Find the truth. There's a truth to everything. It's the same attitude I use when I go into the court. Go back and listen to the audio, the last 9 minutes of an actual court hearing. The video I put online for your benefit, not mine. Notice how the judge says, I know what jurisdiction this is. And the first thing that comes out of my mouth, no script, without hesitation. Really? Well, why don't you tell the rest of us so that we can all know? So that we can all be on the same page. Why? Because he was just talking out of the side of his neck. If you notice, as you listen to that hearing, he never establishes jurisdiction. There's only one person who established jurisdiction. You see, the prosecution backed me up. The prosecution, I keep calling that idiot the prosecution. I'm sorry. the idiot defense attorney for the company that I'm suing decided that he was going to interject and suggest what the jurisdiction is. And he states that I filed the document in that court, thereby submitting to the court's jurisdiction because I filed the document. It's unique because the next second I tell him I didn't submit to anything. I filed that document with the reservation of all rights. Now we're going to talk, people, because you're saying, well, isn't that the UCC? It most certainly is. Then you're going to say, well, I thought you told us not to use the UCC, how it was a trap. Yes, I did. I certainly did tell you that. Now I get to bring you back down to a form of reality. Let me explain to you about the UCC and why it was mentioned to be a trap. Sorry, another fly. I opened the door today, and next thing you know, they wanted to come and introduce themselves to me. And so I have to reintroduce myself. Now, the music in the background is just a beat. Now, if you notice, there's no words, so I hope it's not too disturbing for many of you. I'll probably do videos like this from now on. I'll put a video in the background or a picture in the background of this because it's not, a demonstration video where I'm demonstrating to you where the websites are. We'll do another video, and there's a couple of videos that we're going to be putting together. We're going to get back to the court situation now so that you'll understand, and we're going to explain about the Uniform Commercial Code. First, the Uniform Commercial Code can be used by any and every one of you. But I had to get your minds off of that mindset that you once had, that you could use it, and just because you said UCC 1-308, that was enough. You have to know how to use the Uniform Commercial Code. You have to know how. That's why so many ended up in jail, because they didn't understand the simplicities of the Uniform Commercial Code. So, nah, I'm not going to do a video on the Uniform Commercial Code. I'm not going to do a video on the Uniform Commercial Code. If you want to use it, do your research. I'm not going to do the research for you on that. You see, I'm using the Uniform Commercial Code, and I'm going to continue to use it. But I know how to use it, and I know when to use it. But I will give you some heads up. The government has given you a legal name to do business and to conduct business with it. So, we're getting ready to create a document. That document is going to be, give me a second, I'll tell you exactly what it's going to be entitled, if I can pull it up, because I got so much going on my screen here that I got to make sure I don't cut anything off, because I'm doing like 9 things in the background. We were thinking about entitling it General Affidavit, but I'm pretty certain that we will not be calling this document General Affidavit and anything else. The reason why we won't be calling it General Affidavit is because the document is not a general affidavit. Okay? It's not, there's nothing general about it. Now, we might end up having the name General Affidavit, but let's make this quite clear. We have not made it a point to call it General Affidavit. It's actually going to have the title, Executor's Assertion of Legal Rights and Declaration of Executorship. Legal notice and warning. This is a matter of public record. And then we give the public records section as well as common law. And we don't state all of the public records section. We place those below in the document. And then it states right after that, affidavit. This affidavit will let everyone know, and we will put it up on the net so that you will have access to it. Are you with me? Are you hearing what I'm saying? We're going to make this document available and free to all of you. And if you want to amend it and correct it and add this and add that, we say go for it. We say go for it. But we're going to make this document all-inclusive. This document will secure all of your rights. This document will already have on the public record who you are. What is your status? Are you the executor, director, grantor, beneficiary, and sole shareholder of the actual legal name? Well, here, I'm going to give all of you a hint so that you understand. The government could bring the argument that they created the legal name. Well, possession is 9/10 of the law. Go to redressright.org. Look at the very bottom of the screen, and notice at the very bottom of the screen, you see a teddy bear. And next to him, you see what looks like a little ID. And then you see the corporate seal for the teddy bear. Well, the teddy bear is the actual legal person produced. Because the court demands that the legal person be present. So if the government wants to say that it created the legal person, well, my legal person, formerly known as the straw man, has a birth certificate, or, well, a corporation birth certificate. It has a notary showing that I have power of attorney, so it also has a power of attorney agreement, and it has the corporate seal and ID. ID is just a business card with the picture of the bear on it. Now, many of you are saying, that sounds silly. Why'd you do a thing like that? Well, I'm going to tell you. And yes, Hydamus, Hyven, Uncle Buckus, Kilwalla, all of those are me. Those are all my voices, and they'll be back because they got more information for you. So if you never looked at the videos with the characters, the little cartoonish characters, I say watch them. The information might prove to be beneficial for some of you. And they're not as long as these videos. Well, anyway, I created the legal person. I had a court date. I showed up in court twice in 1 week with 2 different courts in 2 different counties because I had to prove that it worked. And guess what I did? I set my legal fiction next to me. It has a voice box. And so the voice box said, my name is Brett Jones. I'm the legal straw man. Brett Jones is here to represent me as my representative and administrative agent. And that's it. That's all he said. That's his voice box. I just pressed his sleeve and he spoke. So the legal fiction presented himself and identified himself in court. So they couldn't consider me. Now, this was a civil matter. You can do it in a criminal matter if you chose to. Now, I'm not saying that you do this and you make a joke out of it. You have to be very serious about this. Now, this is an actual hearing that I recorded. When I find it, because it's on my computer somewhere, when I find it, I'll put that online so that you can hear the judge say, I will not have you make a mockery of my court. And back then I had the straw man mentality. I believed that I wasn't the straw man. I wasn't going to be the straw man. You were not going to make me a slave. And what I decided to explain to the court at that moment is, I will not have you make a mockery of my name. Guess what? After I stated that, she sat down. She stood up in her chair. She sat back down in her chair, and she was a good little girl for the rest of the hearing. Why? Because I did to them what they did to me. See, if they were allowed to make a mockery of my name, then I could make a mockery of the mockery. Because that's what they look at you as, is an insignificant nothing, a piece of nothing. So we're going to create this document, and that's all it's going to be, is a document. You're going to get notarized, and you're going to handle it because it's going to have the same type of flavor as the Declaration of Reservation of Rights, but it's going to be more specific, have a little bit more law attached. Because remember, it's associated with the corporate fiction, your legal name. Now, people have been saying, where's that Supreme Court ruling where the Supreme Court ruled that corporations got human rights? I mean, not human rights, but constitutional rights? Well, people, if you hear me say that the Supreme Court has ruled that corporations have constitutional rights, why aren't you Googling it? Why aren't you doing your own research? Why are you asking me to provide that for you? Do your own research. I don't want you going to jail. I don't want you misunderstanding me, and then the next thing you know, you say, well, it was that redress right side. We listened to him, and we went off to jail in handcuffs. It's not my fault if you don't do your own research. I'm only here to point you in the right direction. I'm only here to help you not do so much running around in your research. So I've given you where to get the information out on the internet. I've told you how to find reputable sites to get information where it's not so watered down, convoluted, or disruptive, sending you in the wrong direction. Now, some of you may not understand this, but there are a lot of people who have been emailing or texting or calling, and I say at least 4 people so far who I know are not regular humans. When I say not regular humans, that they are actually citizens, that they are federal employees. I can tell by their question. I can tell by their pretending to be ignorant. You see, as I mentioned to some of you, I'm one of Jehovah's Witnesses, so I've knocked on many of doors. And I've had Bible studies with many of people. You get to know personalities, especially when you are a people person. You see, I care more about people than I do about money. I care more about people than I do about myself. I know you're saying, well, he's one of those, you must love your neighbor as yourself. No, because loving your neighbor as yourself means that you have to love yourself first, which means that's kind of selfish, if you thought about it. Now, I do love my neighbor, but I love myself a whole lot more. I must say that. But when I say that I will give my life for the next man, whether I know him or not, that's not a hesitation. That's not an imaginatory statement. That's a true statement. I have put my life on the line for so many people that it is beyond counting. I'm not here to brag. This is not me bragging. This is me letting you know that if you hear me say something, I assure you it's the truth. If you call me to the mat, I will stand there on that mat and defend what I say. If I'm wrong, it doesn't get defended. If I'm wrong, I will apologize. I have no problem saying, I'm sorry. I won't do that no more. I have no problem saying that. Do I have pride? Every man has pride. If a man tells you he doesn't have pride, he is a liar. So yes, I have pride. But the problem with pride is too much of it is what's bad for you. So I like to keep the pride under control. So if I'm wrong, I promise you I will admit that I'm wrong. But I'm the type of person that everybody likes to catch me being wrong. If I do the slightest little thing wrong, somebody brings it to my attention. So I try as best I can to be accurate, not to be right. It's not so important to be right as it is to be accurate. And I would rather be accurate than 100% right all the time. Because when you're 100% right all the time, you have no friends. If you're a human. Okay, let's continue. I told you we were going to talk about the young man that was in court. Now, again, the document that I was telling you about, that will be probably finished sometime before sometime before October 4th. And it will be up online. All of the information is in the document. I just have to check the wording, because the wording is the most important thing. It has to say enough, and it has to cover enough so that there are no loopholes. Right now the document is 5 pages long, and by the time I finish it will be about 4 pages long, but it will be all inclusive. It will cover everything. Sorry, I'm looking at the document and oh, I see what it is. The people who sent me the document, they put numbers at the bottom, and when I amended this document, I didn't correct those numbers. Okay, now it looks like the document might be a little bit better. It looks like they corrected themselves with just changing one number. Okay, alright, now we get back to that conversation this morning with the young man. We'll just name this young man and we'll call him Doug. And I was speaking with Doug because there's no need of you knowing even his nickname. But I was speaking with Doug this morning. He called me, he even texted me, and he says, look, I'm in court right now. I did everything that you said, and I'm still having problems with the judge. I said, well, what's the problem? He said, well, right now he sat me down. I said, what do you mean? He says, well, when he came in, you know, he called the case. I stood up, I sat up there, and he called my name, and he asked me, was I such and such, such and such? Was I Doug? Let's just say, was I Doug Collins? And I said, yes. But he said, I didn't just say yes. I told him I was the executor, director, grantor, and beneficiary of that particular account. And because you're a public servant, that makes you the fiduciary. And because the prosecutor is a public servant, that makes them a fiduciary. And I command that this matter be under common law. Well, guess what? Guess what? They took that case and they told him, oh, you've been watching the internet. You've been watching a lot of this information on the internet. And Doug said to himself, what's that got to do with anything? But he didn't say it to the judge. He just said it to himself. Well, you just go right on over there and you just have a seat. I'll get with you in a minute. Now, haven't you seen all the videos saying that's exactly what the judge is going to do? He's going to tell you to go have a seat while he handles the other cases. So let me suggest what you're going to do. Once you announce that you're the executor, once you announce that he's the trustee or fiduciary because he's a public servant, that's how you get around the presumption of law. Here is your preponderance of evidence. He is a public servant. And as a public servant, he's automatically the trustee. And once he is identified as the fiduciary, which you will do because you are a public trustee. You are the fiduciary. And the prosecutor, you are a public servant as well. You are also the fiduciary. Now guess what? They don't get to climb out of that hole. There is no ladder. There is no rope. There is nobody putting their hand down there, sticking a tree branch down there to pull them out of that hole. They are stuck in that hole. Even if they asked you to sit down and you sat down, remember, you're the executor. You're not submitting to their jurisdiction by doing that. You are the executor. You're doing that of your own free will. That is your choice. Nobody's making you do it. You're not submitting. Once you establish yourself as the executor, you remain the executor. So what do you say? You say, I will remain the executor of this matter and any other matter concerning this legal person until the year 2999 AD, the year of our Lord. AD stands for Anno Domini, meaning the year of our Lord. Or you could say 2499 or 2899 or 3899. It doesn't matter what year you say so far off into the future. You're letting them know that you will remain the executor despite anything else. That way you don't have to keep repeating it. That way you don't have to keep announcing it. That's what this document we're telling you we're going to produce for you is going to be about. Because once you announce it the first time, you're the executor. You don't have to announce it again because it's a presumption that can only be rebutted by a preponderance of evidence. Preponderance, meaning overwhelming. Like to ponderance someone into the ground, an overwhelming amount of evidence. See, your preponderance of evidence for the judge being the fiduciary, the overwhelming amount of evidence is that he's a public servant. He can't get around that. A servant will always be a servant. He can't buy himself out of servancy. Judges are public servants. Everybody knows that. That's the preponderance of evidence because everybody knows they're public servants. And so you call him the public servant. And then you call him the fiduciary. You don't have to call him the
Trustee, public trustee, you're the public trustee.
You don't have to do that. You're not there to give an opera performance. You're there just to state the facts on the record. Don't worry about how to say it. Just worry about how to say it verbatim. So this is the letter I wrote Mike. See, I said his name. Okay, well now we know Doug is Mike, Mike is Doug. I apologize. So that's what happens when you know people. It says, I know that it is hard to understand all of this. This is what I'm writing him. Remember, the court will argue with you, will ask questions that will mean nothing. Don't let them, they will ask you questions and they're going to be specific in their stupid questions from time to time. You don't have to let them know anything. You don't have to answer their question. What you do is you answer their question with a question, especially if it's a redundant question. But do not let any question go unanswered. Are you catching me? I'll explain that in a minute. So just keep in mind that I said do not let any question go unanswered. Sorry, I'm typing it in and I can't walk and talk at the same time. I apologize. Okay, I just had to type that question in so that when I get done with this letter, I can get back to it. This video will be about 1.5 hours to 2 hours long. The music is designed to be at least 5 hours long, but I will not keep you guys 5 hours. I'll try to make this a little bit more succinct. It says, before you answer any question, you will always count 3 seconds. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. And then you will provide your answer. Now, why will you do something like this? Because the judge wants to get you confused. He wants to get you crossed up in your words. He wants to take you off of your platform. He wants to rattle you. But once you become the executor, you start asking questions. Notice how I explain how he will perform that. It says, remember, they have no authority over you. If they claim they do, ask them to prove it on the record, the public record, by a preponderance of evidence, because you presume they have no authority over you. Remember, presumption of law requires that the one who's refuting the presumption prove to the contrary by a preponderance of evidence. Anyway, getting back to the letter. And under presumption of law, all contradictions to a presumption made on the public record by a preponderance of evidence to the contrary. It just says that under presumption of law, all contradictions are to be made by a preponderance of evidence to the contrary. So all contradictions to any presumption must be refuted on the record by a preponderance of evidence. That's why you do the first refuting of a presumption when you announce yourself as the executor, director, grantor,
And beneficiary.
of that matter, of that legal name that's on the public record. You're doing it of the legal name, not of the legal fiction, not of the legal person. You're doing it of the legal name. Legal name, legal name, legal name, legal name. You're doing it of the legal name, not the straw man, not the fictitious person, the legal name. You want to use legal terms, but you don't want to use legalese. All right, the next thing I tell them, but what you are going to say is simple. You will tell the court that you'd like to introduce yourself, because remember, the court has introduced itself, the attorneys have introduced themselves, and you should be given the same opportunity. That's what you're going to tell the judge. It's called equal time, and it's the law. Now, after you introduce yourself as the executive, grantor, director, and beneficiary, you will tell the court that you're going... excuse me, I did this by voice recognition, so it's not exactly clear. I'm going to have to call this young man and let him know. But you'll tell the court that you're going to be placing this on the public record, that all public employees, or no, you're going by the public knowledge. You're going by the public knowledge that all public employees are fiduciaries, and they can never be more than trustees. All public employees. Why? But you'll see in a minute, because I'll explain how this case went. And that you are now putting this, as well as all the other public employees of the state are appointing. You are now appointing it, the court, and all other public employees. Yes, and all other public employees in the state as fiduciaries. There's a reason for that. We'll talk about that in a minute. Then you will tell the court that under the maxim encompassing presumption of law, I will accept any rebuttal upon a preponderance of evidence to the contrary. See, if the judge says, well, all public employees are not fiduciaries. Okay, I accept your assumption if you can prove it by a preponderance of evidence to the contrary. Now he's going to be not too happy because you just sat up there and made him look foolish, because you just said he said something that was foolish. So I go on to tell him, if they want to proceed, sorry, like I said, it's voice recognition, and I had to get this thing done for this young man as quick as possible. So give me 1 second to correct something. If they want to proceed with trial, it's okay, because you've already established the major things. You've announced who you are, you announced who he is, so that makes anything he decides to be, let's just say, outside the rules of the court. Now, remember, the rules apply to the court and the attorneys who work for the court, but they do not apply to you. You do not have to follow rules. You do not have to follow rules of service. However, you do have to follow the maxim, and that an individual be notified and be given an opportunity to acquiesce, contest, rebut, refute, or forfeit. Okay, so you have to provide proper service. Okay, remember, all of their laws, all of their maxims, all of their presumptions are based on maxims. Even the maxims are based on maxims. And all the maxims are based on human rights, whether you know it or not. Just go back and look at the maxims and see how closely they tie to human rights. See, you must ask this question of the court. Under presumption of law, this body needs to reestablish jurisdiction by first rebutting the establishment of common law jurisdiction. As you have established, as you, speaking to this individual, have established common law jurisdiction in this matter, that this body will also produce the injured party so as to be cross-examined. Okay, are you getting that? If they want to go to trial, then you give them a trial. Now, let's say it's a peace officer, and this peace officer gave you a ticket, and you called him to the stand. So when the attorney takes the stand, or well, this case it was an attorney, but let's say it's a peace officer. When the peace officer takes the stand, you will ask him for his name. Okay, you'll say, what is your official title? Now I know public trustees can't have titles. That's why you're asking them for its official title, because it's official within the realms of public trustees. Then, okay, you will ask him where he works, the address on the building where he works. Now this is, like I said, this was involving an attorney. So the reason why we want to ask where he works, the address on the building where he works, you'll see in a minute. You will ask him if he works for a law firm. You will ask him if he is a practicer of law. Sorry, I'm correcting some spelling issues. Voice recognition. You will ask him if he is a licensed attorney, or excuse me, licensed to practice law in your state. Then you will ask him, does he receive compensation for his services? What are his normal rates, and how long has he been in practice? Now the word practice is essential. You'll find out why. Now remember I stated why this was a law firm that we were going after? We're about to explain it now. He will have to say yes to each of these questions. Give me a second. It's one of those typos again. If not, he would be lying. You will now ask him how much money he lent you, just in case an attorney says you owe him money. Okay? Just in case. Because this attorney is trying to get money out of somebody that he ain't getting money out of. So you ask him how much money he lent you. He will argue and say there was no money lent when he represented you. He didn't lend you any money. You signed a contract and he represented you. That's what you want to hear. That's exactly what you want to hear. Now, give me a second. Let me give you a call back. I'm doing a video right now, so I'll call you back in a couple of minutes. Okay, goodbye. Sorry, that is one of the individuals that I communicate with and helping, and that person also helps me with quite a few things. Okay, now, he will argue and he will say he did not lend you any money. That's exactly what you want to hear. So when he says that there is no money lent, you're going to say, so that I may understand, you never lent me any monies. And of course, he will say, that is correct. You'll say, how many monies do you say that I owe you? He will say, whatever it is, whatever the amount is, that's what he will say. At this point, you will demand dismissal of the matter with prejudice. They will ask, on what grounds? You will say, on the grounds that Statute at Large 112, Chapter 48 dictates that debts can only be paid. Sorry, I gotta write in a word. Dollar for dollar. And because the claimant has declared that he never lent any dollars, I submit that he is not owed. Gotta change that. For the word owed, it put OLD. He's not owed any dollars. Remember, if there's no money in circulation, you cannot be required to pay any monies to anyone. And because he didn't lend legal tender, it has to be repaid dollar for dollar. Go back and read the law. And second, the Supreme Court has determined that the practice of law cannot be regulated, nor can anyone, gotta correct some things, have a license to practice law in the United States, as the practice of law is a matter of common right. You don't have to tell them what Supreme Court case that is. They're the students of law. You do not have to be a student of law to speak in court. You just have to know verbatim what the law says. See, one may not be compensated for practicing an illegal act. Do you get that? If he's practicing an illegal act, he cannot... Give me 1 second. Sorry, gotta correct this because I'll forget to do it later. Because I have to send it to this person again so that he can be able to read it correctly. Okay, one cannot be compensated for practicing an illegal act. That's like me telling you, okay, go out and steal that car for me and bring it here and park it in Tom's parking lot and leave the keys in the ignition. And I'll pay you. You see, if he gets caught, he can't come after me and say, you owe me money. I did exactly what you told me to do. What are you talking about? I don't owe you a dime. You might be wired. You might be working for the police. You might be a narco. You need to get away from me. Are you catching me? So an attorney cannot expect to be paid for an act of which it is illegal for him to practice, unless he was operating under a jurisdiction that may have permitted such, and no such jurisdiction has been asserted. See, the court has never announced on the record what the jurisdiction is, so you can presume whatever jurisdiction you want, the same as the court presumes whatever jurisdiction it wants. And if you presume that the jurisdiction is common law, and the court does not rebut your presumption by a preponderance of evidence to the contrary, and you conduct yourself as if it was a common law hearing, the attorney cannot ask you to pay him back unless he can prove by a preponderance of evidence to the contrary that it wasn't a common law jurisdiction and you weren't acting under that jurisdiction. If this matter if this is a matter of right as evidenced by law, that it must be the evidence showing that it has jurisdiction over a human being. I'll redo that later. That's what that sentence is saying. Your last statement to the court. I also asked for this matter to be dismissed with prejudice because the court has not established on the record that it has jurisdiction over a human being. Forget the straw man. F the legal fiction. Forget the straw man. I don't care if that offends any of you. Forget the straw man at this point. Ask the court to prove on the record that it has jurisdiction over a human being. It works this way. Humans wrote the law. Man cannot make any law that rules over another man. If it were possible, let's start writing our own laws that rule over judges, that rule over presidents, that rule over countries. Let's do that. Because it is a known fact that idiots have said that all men are created equal. And under that presumption, it is presumed that if they're created equal, that means that none can exercise any other power over another because they have equal power. So they can't write a law, even collectively, because if all men are created equal, you can't take two of them and make one greater than the other. It's not possible. All right, there's going to be some background noise, just a little bit, not a lot, because I had to plug back into the system. My battery was showing that it didn't have any power. No, that call is not being answered. They're going to have to leave a voicemail. I apologize that my phone, I had 2 straight hours, my phone did not ring one time, and I was a happy man. Let's get back to finishing this up. Oh, that's right, I did say there was one other thing that I was going to talk about. See, that's why I had to type that question at the top. Do not let any question go unanswered. If the court asks you a question, you answer it. Even if you say, I don't understand your question. Your question doesn't make any sense to me. Could you please explain it in basic modern English? Just that simple. You see, this is what happened. The judge took his case and had the clerk of the court tell him that his case was transferred to another courtroom. There are 2 things that I would have done. I would have said, sorry, he has to tell me that. He is the trustee. I've already told him that if he's going to communicate with me, he has to do so in writing. So, because he has walked away from this arena, this matter is now concluded. This matter is now over. People say, but what if he rules against you? Aren't you going to get in trouble? No, because on appeal, you just bring up the same issues. Now, we'll explain the appeal thing in a moment. First, let's tell you how this particular case went today. What happened is that the court decided, stupidly, that they were going to find him brought to the other court. I thought I was going to say guilty, huh? No. They were going to put him in the other court. They were going to have him wait 30 minutes before the hearing. I told him when he called me that they were going to have him wait. It was at this time that he asked me to put together something so that he could have a basis for speaking in court. That's why it was rushed. So I apologize to him and I apologize to all of you. Okay, we will put forth the template like other people have put so that you can have a basic knowledge of why you're saying what you're saying. Okay, we just not a lot of time. So as some of you out there who have some skills at this, especially people like Dean Clifford, Douglas Riddle, or the guys over at Creditors in Commerce, a guy that I have a lot of respect for. Again, I have not met Dean, nor have I met Brandon. But I've listened to Dean and Brandon, and I have a lot of respect for these two men. And so if they get word that I'm saying that I truly respect both of them, it'll be an honor for me to, in the future, communicate with either of the two. Okay? Like I said, you get those minds together of individuals of like mind, and a lot of things can be changed. Okay, he went to the court, he goes before the second judge. This second judge decides that he is not going to give him an opportunity to speak. He calls the court, he begins to tell the judge who he is, and the judge cuts him off. And he gets nervous because he's not been in that situation before. He's never used this technique before. So what does he say to the judge? So everyone, if you walk into a courtroom, go back and listen to that hearing that I had with the judge. You saw the judge tried to cut me off. And you saw how I brought my voice to a level where he understood that that was not being permitted. You do not get to cut me off because you feel like it. I do not allow people to disrespect me, not even a judge. I even tell the judge, I will not permit you to dishonor me in this courtroom because you'll be dishonoring the court and you will be held in contempt. He was, you can't hold a judge in contempt. Why can't I hold a judge in contempt? Why can't I hold a judge in contempt? If a judge violates his fiduciary responsibilities, he is violating the integrity of the court. When a judge holds you in contempt, he's not holding you in contempt, so stop thinking that. He is holding you in contempt of court, not contempt of judge, not contempt of gavel, but contempt of court. Contempt of court is much different than contempt of judge. So if he can hold you in contempt for disrespecting the honor of the court and the integrity of the court, why can't you? Where is the law that says you can't hold a judge in contempt? I will hold that idiot in contempt. I will go to the elections board in the county for which he sits as a fiduciary, and I will get his oath of office from the Board of Election. Now, guess what? Many of you have been trying to get it from the county recorder's office and all these other places. Please, they're elected. If they're district court judges, then you shouldn't have as hard of a time getting it on a district court judge because he was sworn into office. That will be at your Secretary of State's office. But your regular little local judges, those idiots are elected in office. And because they're elected in office, then you go, that card is kept in two places. Either with your, what is it, Secretary of State, and you can check on that information finding it through your Attorney General's office, or you can check with the Elections Board, the election committee for the county that you're in. And they will tell you where the card is. They'll give you a copy. It is free. You're a constituent. It is free. Free, 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 free. Then what do? Well, you find out through the Secretary of State who their insurance company, who's the insurance company for state employees. It's very simple to find out. You just ask them, what's the Workmen's Compensation Corporation, a company for the state? Well, we use, in this building, we use such and such, such and such. Well, thank you very much. And then you call them. And then you ask them, do you handle the policies for the state of New Mexico? Do you handle the policies for the state of New York? Secretary of State's office. For the state itself. For the state employees of the state of such and such, such and such. Well, we handle some of their files. Well, here, I need to file a claim. What do you mean you need to file a claim? You're an insurance company, right? Well, sir, yes, we're an insurance. Well, you file claims. Claims can be filed at your company, can they not? Well, yes, they can be filed, but it depends. No, I don't need it to deepen. No. I don't need it to deepen. I just need it to be the way it is. Why does it need to deepen? Sorry, that's a play on the word depends. You know, I don't wear diapers, ma'am. Why would I need to depends? Because they're going to give you every answer but the right answer. So you just ask the right questions. Do you not accept claims in this office? Well, I need to file a claim. Can you send me a claim form? And then you attach a copy of the judge's oath of office, a copy of your notice to the court of your being a fiduciary, not fiduciary, sorry, the executive director, grantor, and beneficiary of the account. And how the judge, because he was a public servant, is a fiduciary, has violated his oath of office and the honor of the court, the honor and integrity of the court, and thereby violating your, get this, pay attention, secured rights. Not, well, you can say constitutionally secured rights because you're the executor of the legal person. The legal person, because of the Supreme Court, has constitutional rights. So you can bring up constitutional rights violations now, people. The constitutional rights applies to your legal person because Supreme Court has given you the ability of using the legal person to utilize constitutional rights. That's why corporations are allowed to give unlimited amounts of money to political campaigns. Talk to Chief Justice Roberts. He was the one who gave the, what do you call it, the majority opinion. Okay, I'm not a fan of Justice Roberts. I believe he was a plant. I believe he was placed in that position on purpose. I believe he is more of a puppet than anything else and anyone else. How do you get to be appointed to Supreme Court Justice and then you become the Chief Justice when there were so many others ahead of you? People who had more tenure than you did, and you become the Chief Justice? So if you're going to tell me that that was the natural order of things, I'll tell you that was a lie. Okay, now that we've covered this and we've covered that, I told you that I wanted to cover some things about the UCC, but we're not going to cover anything about the UCC. I got telephone calls to return, people. I can't be staying on the internet with you guys all night. So, what am I trying to tell you? I'm trying to tell you that I'm always here to help you. One person says, well, you take the time to talk to people, you take the time to call them back, you take the time to return their email. Well, when do you ever have time for anything? To let you know what's coming down the pike is we're going to be showing you how to clear your credit yourself without paying us a dime, without giving us any of your information. Yes, we could start a little small business on the side doing this for people. And I tell you what, for those of you who don't know how to do it yourself, you think it might be a little tricky, you think you might not know how to handle the process, I will give you a website that will be run by me that you can go to, that you can actually sit up there and post payments and all that stuff. I will not give you someone else's website because I don't trust other people. Because I've already told you from day one, I don't want your money. I don't need your money. I live off of, and I'll tell you so that all of you will know, I live off of $674 a month. That is my Social Security check. Okay? So if I wanted money, if I needed money, if I was hurting so bad, I live off of one premise. I serve what I tell everyone is the only true God, the God of the Bible. He will take care of my needs. He has done so. When I first got here to this state, I was living off of $254 a month. Now you try surviving off of $254 a month and having to pay for gas or fuel and everything else. So I don't need your money. Okay? I don't need your money. I have left everything behind twice in my life to prove that I could start from nothing and become something. And each time I ended up getting everything I had before and then some. So I'm not in this for money. I don't want your money. However, if you have us do the work, if you notice, I'll tell you, I don't have a lot of time on my hands. So if you have me do the work, then I'm going to have to charge you for the services. I don't mind doing that. I will not charge you like everybody else. I went to one site, and just to get one document of negative advertisement, $70? Why would you charge somebody $70 for one stupid document? Well, we have to prepare the document for them. I'm preparing motions for people, and I'm not charging them a dime. So why can't you prepare that stupid document? See, the only thing with this repairing your credit, it is 100% legitimate. It's the same thing that all the other repair companies do. It's just it's taken me 3 years to get the documentation. You know, I can't mention a young man's, I would love to mention his name on the internet, but I don't want to ruin things for him getting other information in the future. But someone has really helped me out with providing me the information that I needed that I've been looking for 3 years. And I thanked him at least 12 times. And so I thank him. He knows who he is. I thank him officially again. I really do appreciate this young man. He's actually older than me, but I refer to him as young man out of respect. Why? Because I respect him. He has offered to help, and he didn't need to. And I appreciate his help. So here again, as we told you, this video was going to cover the courts, the current situation in our economy, and what we're looking forward to. I'm sorry everybody, but we have some very rough times coming. And I don't know how much I'll be able to do to help smoothen things for some of you, because that's all I'm trying to do. I see a lot of stress in people. You know, I see the stress in their faces, I see the stress in their eyes. I see how society is really beating them down, and there's no reason for it. Why does society prey on the weak because it's trying to cause these problems. And that creates a problem for me. That creates a very big problem for me. Alright, well, once again, this is the Legal Redress Commission. I want to thank you for taking the time to give us the time. And we're going to enhance this so that the music is not so loud in the background, because I'm listening to it on my audio and the music is a little bit louder. So I'm just going to tune it up a little bit. I hope that none of you have too much of a problem with it. Alright, thank you once again for listening to us here at the Legal Redress Commission, redressright.org, and Redress Right at youtube.com/redressright, or excuse me, youtube.com/user/redressright. youtube.com/user/redressright. And all of you who've sent us comments, sent us messages, sent us appreciation notices, we want to tell you we appreciate you as well, because the fact that you sent us that information has given us the resolve to continue. Okay? We figured, and this is all we did, we figured if we put the information out there for you, you would find it. That's why we don't advertise. We won't advertise. You are our advertisement. If we say something wrong, if we say something incorrect, if we say something that gets someone in trouble, you will spread that information out so fast that we won't be here anymore. And so we live by our word. We live by our integrity. We will continue to try to provide you credible information. I want to thank you once again, and have a very, very good evening. Good night.
I told you,
This is
men,
Robert
to
Masterson.
start that exit!
From redressright.org.
Nobody
No,
is to
channel.
leave this area!
It's complete pandemonium
Where's that
out
helicopter?
here. The police are arresting everybody who hasn't already accepted the inoculation.
Right there!
And the United Nations has declared martial law on the entire world. You can't even walk out in the street. When we're told that the media will be the last ones to be inoculated. But I can't begin to tell you they're shooting and killing everyone who's not accepting the inoculation. I was told that this was going to happen, but I didn't believe it was going to be in my lifetime. Wait! You told me that it was going to, we're going to be able to complete this interview. Wait, you can't do this! You can't do this! No!
What are you saying? Get over here! But we found that we're not. I want that building destroyed. This is it. It's finally over, man.
Excuse me.
Return home.
You see, everyone, the simple fact, everybody knows what's about to happen. Everybody sees it coming, and they don't know what to do. The problem is, nobody's preparing themselves for what's about to happen. Are you going to be prepared? Are you going to be ready? Well, start looking through your eyes, and not through your mind. Open your eyes, and you'll be able to see. Thank you.
Once again, all voices are done by the Legal Redress Commission. None of this material is copywritten. We hope you liked it. People, you need to get prepared. So stay tuned to the Legal Redress Commission as we bring you more!